Hey, welcome guys back to the channel. This is your host Maverick, bringing to you the final episode of Steinsgate. So, everything that we've been working for these past months is culminating into this one episode. How exactly are they going to end it, right? So last episode, from the general idea that I could get, it's basically that Okuda needs to essentially recreate the situation as he experienced it in the past, right? It needs to be completely the same, or more or less the same, I guess, because there are still some specifics of it that I'm not quite too certain about, and there are still some time paradox, shenanigans that I have my reservations on. But I'm not going to talk too much about that because I want to see how this thing plays out first, and then see if there is a satisfactory answer. Beyond that, well, I actually wouldn't be too surprised if, well, okay, I was going to say that I wasn't going to be too surprised if there's a final twist in this episode as well. It just seems like the kind of thing that this series would throw out to you. But then again, they got one episode left. If there is a twist, how are they exactly going to resolve it, right? But I'm just saying, it seems kind of, since we already know what they're trying to do, is this episode essentially going to be them executing it and then everything will be fine again? I feel like that isn't good enough of a climax, or I mean, a good enough of a, ending, So, I don't know. Anyways, let's just get into the episode and see what the hell actually happens. Alrighty, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. And well, some of you guys have tried to explain it to me, but I'm gonna see it for myself. Especially the part in regards to the thesis, the paper. Oh. Wait, so is she basically saying if they do change things, she's just going to disappear as well? Because she wouldn't need to come back to the past? Hmm. Is it ever explained how he got that nickname? No. Alright, one final time. Let me mute the music real quick. This is such an iconic song. I know I've mentioned this many times before, but it really is. Like, I know of this song even though I've never seen Steinsgate before. Okay, so the last episode, people were saying the animation was a little bit different from the other openings. So is this one also different as well? I honestly can't tell. Well, yeah, I honestly can't tell. What's he trying to get? What? It's still Okabe in the end. Yeah. I mean, you guys are his close friends. You should know that by now. Oh. You're getting your memories? Hmm. Well, I like how even the rest of them don't have any memories, but still. Bye bye. Alright, let's do this again. I like how 30 years into the future, she's still using an old style weapon. Sorry, that has no relevance whatsoever. It's just. Oh, so that's why the metal Upa was. So they are still changing the past in some way. The only thing that doesn't change is Okabe's Kurisu and blood. Hmm. Oh, come on, you've seen her before. Oh. Hmm. Mm. Was that an act, or was he truly? Okay, that was an act, I guess. Is that it? Yeah. Hmm. Okay. His own blood? What? Okay. Is oh, so it's that's gotta be. Wait, he's actually using his own damn. Holy shit! But then heart. What? Okay, and then Kurisu's going to. Wait, he's still. Okay. But still needs to knock out Kurisu though. But what? O M. Oh my god. Is but so is his wound fatal or not? Well, okay. If I mean if Suza's not freaking out, then I guess it's not entirely fatal. Right? Or yeah, so what about this time machine? 7 7 years? What?
その記憶はあるいは前世まで遡るかもしれんな。
なんだろうこの文字。今日もさっきまでいたにゃ。やっぱりフェリスちゃん、何かもらわなかった？そういえば
ラボメンナンバー007のピンバッジだ。助けが欲しい。
Okay. What?
ラヨーダスタセッラと唱えるがいい。
あ？岡部ならさっきまでここにいたのによ。
マユリお姉ちゃん。トゥットゥルー、ナエちゃん。
Well, it's been a while since there is a Tituru.
ギドゥ、萌香です。
ナエが転んだところを助けてもらって、ちょうど仕事もないっつうからうちで働いてもらうことになった。
椎名マユリです。
Okay.
岡部の野郎もナンパしやがってよ。
いつでもラボを訪れるといい。
Hmm.
ありがとう。
This can't be it.
おかえりん。
Okay. That's funny.
オカリンは？
ちょっと買い物行ってくるって。
そっか。
Okay, I guess the final scene is Okabe and Kurisu meeting each other.
ナンバー002と003。いつの間にラボメンそんなに増えたん？ 008まであるって言ってたけど。
オはオカリンでしょ。椎名、橋田、漆原、フェリス。M と K と A って？
さあ、あともう一個箱の中にしまっていったお。ラボメンナンバー008は7年後に現れる。また妄想っすか？必然だ。誰の？僕の？
7年。
Ah, so that's what it means.
どんなラボメンなんだろう。
She was
7年後って
born then?
できないよ。
でもね、オは変わらないと思うよ。何年経ってもずっと。
お前は今どこにいるのだろう。アメリカの研究機関で論文を書いているだろうか。確かめたいことがあって徹夜で実験をしているだろうか。もしかしたら父のことでまだ悩んでいるかもしれない。俺と過ごした3週間をお前は覚えていない。だがそれでいい。お前が今どこかで息をして声を出して何かを一生懸命考えている。それで十分。
Come on, they have to meet at the very end.
未来がまだわからないこの世界をどこかで一緒に見ているのだから。
Yep.
やっと会えた。あなたを探していたんです。助けてくれたお礼を言いたくて。
なぜ彼女がここにいる？何？俺が守れだと？やれやれ、勝手なことを言ってくるな。まあいい。それが選択だというのなら、エルプサイゴーグル。
エルプサイ？
また会えたな、クリスティーナ。
いやだから、私はクリスティーナでも女子でもないと。
Wait, she know? Hmm?
ようこそ我が助手マキセ・クリス、いやクリスティーナ。
Here's your badge.
未来のことは誰にもわからない。だからこそこの再会が意味するように無限の可能性がある。
Oh. Oh, oh, oh.
シュタインズゲートの選択だ。
Okay. At least we got, a satisfactory conclusion to that. Okay, I'm assuming this is the OVA then? Nah, that's whatever. We don't need to see this preview. And there we have it. We have finally completed Steinsgate, the original. And boy, I gotta say, this is probably the first time in this series, and really the only time where I was really shocked by what actually happened. Like, for the past few episodes, sorry, not the past few episodes, in the the other episodes where something unexpected happened, such as Mayuri dying or Mayuri dying again and again. Those kind of stuff, even though I didn't actually know that was going to happen, so I was surprised, but at the same time, I wasn't that surprised, because there was always this sense of foreboding that was within the anime. And, especially when you deal with time travel stuff such as this, it was relatively easy to guess that might be this kind of situation, right? But this one, even though I again had this kind of sense where, okay, I feel like some kind of twist is still bound to happen, otherwise this would be way too simple of an episode. I was not expecting Okabe to be as metal as that, right? So really, that's probably the biggest shock that I had for this series as a whole up to now. And at that time, I was seriously wondering whether Okabe was going to die or not, right? Even though I feel like it would be amazing that if that actually happened and nobody actually spoiled it for me. But that would also be a very sad ending, right? So I'm glad that didn't happen. But I was actually there thinking for a moment, okay, so is there going to be eventually a Karisu from the future coming back in time to save Okabe from killing himself, or something like that? You get the infinite loop going. But anyways, I digress. So that was definitely, I guess, a good unexpected development, right? And I do like how we have a little bit of all the characters at the very end, show what they're doing, what they're going to do in the future, and stuff like that. Although I will touch on this a little bit later as well. First of all, let's go back and talk about the actual time travel part, right? Because at the end of the day, I still feel like there are some things that don't really make that much sense. So let's get to the actual meat of what this supposed problem is, right? So in essence, Okabe needs to stop the D-mail from happening, right? Because if the D-mail happens when he sees Kurisu's lying in a pool of blood and then sends the mail to Daru, that makes this, we go back to episode 1, right? And the entire world line shifts from the beta world line to the alpha world line, right? So we don't want that to happen. At the same time, another important thing is that we cannot allow the papers to be taken by Kurisu's dad to the Russians, right? Because that will result in World War III. So the thing is, I feel these are not mutually exclusive, right? All you have to do is make it so that Kurisu actually survives. Survives that encounter. Okabe does not see her lying in a pool of blood, and wouldn't everything be solved? Question mark. Well, of course they still have the paper part. They probably still need to do something in regards to the paper. But I'm just saying, if Okabe never sees Kurisu lying in a pool of blood, then he would never send that email. Then we wouldn't have to go through the entire Mayuri death scenarios, right? We can keep it right here in this world line as well, or maybe potentially a third world line if they do destroy the papers or something. But I just can't think of a good reason for them to do this kind of roundabout way of, okay, so Okabe still needs to go through each of the process that he went through from episodes 1 to 23 to get here in order for us to reach this perfect timeline, the Steinsgate timeline, if you will. That part is still kind of iffy for me. I mean, I guess technically speaking, it's not a paradox or a plot hole, but it is kind of hand wavy. I mean, you can obviously explain it away by saying, okay, this is just it's just the way that it has to happen. There can't be any other way to happen. Like, potentially, I don't know, if for instance, just for instance, let's say Okabe, during his encounter, when he goes back to the past and with his encounter with Kurisu, they bump into each other, right? And then the papers get sprayed around. So what would happen if he just simply snatched those papers and burned them right then and there, right? Like, wouldn't that basically solve the whole problem? Kurisu wouldn't go meet her dad, she wouldn't get stabbed, and Okabe, the past Okabe, would never see that scene and send that email to Daru, right? Wouldn't that solve the problem? Now, my personal explanation for this, because every time I think of some kind of problem, I always try to work this out myself and see, okay, is there a possible explanation for this? And I guess one explanation would be that, okay, so even though they do things like this, it's an inevitability that Okabe will eventually eventually send a D-mail, and then they would start this whole process again, right? But then again, even if he does send a D-mail, as long as it's not to that exact same time and place, right? It's set at that exact same time and place, shouldn't theoretically that still avoid going into the alpha timeline, right? So again, this is, you can always say that, okay, that's just the way it is, right? But that is hand wavy in a kind of way. And then we move on to the second main part, and let's say, okay, so let's say for instance that I accept all that, and this, the method we see within this episode is the actual way for things to be done. Well, then we run into, again, the very classic causality problem, right? Because the whole purpose of this is to not let the time machine be invented and not let the D-mail happen. Not let the D-mail be invented, right? Because the entire reason for going through the entire past and whatnot was so that he can eventually destroy the D-mail and the machine, right? So, if that was the case, then how did the future time machine be built? And so Suzuha was able to come back and, drive all this forward, right? That is a paradox in itself. A causality paradox is the same as if you go back in time and kill yourself, right? Now, of course, you're saying, Maverick, didn't we go through this already? It's explained that because there's multi-universes and whatnot, you can do this stuff without having a consequence. Well, yes and no, right? So, see, in the original method, the way of preventing this kind of causality is because in the classic interpretation of, multi-world interpretation of quantum mechanics, what happens is there's infinite universes and they all exist at the same time, right? So when you're saying that you're going to the past and, for instance, killing yourself or whatnot, you're just really moving to different timelines. It doesn't affect any other timeline. You move from, for instance, you don't literally move the timeline. It's only you yourself as a frame of reference move to another timeline. So let's say there's timeline A, timeline B. In timeline A, you invent the time machine, and then you go back in the past and kill yourself. Well, that just means that you go to timeline B, right? But timeline A is still unaffected. They still go forward as they are. So you're not killing yourself, actually, back in timeline A. So that avoids the whole causality problem, because the timeline A's you will still eventually get to the point in the future where you invent the time machine, where then you use the time machine, you go back, but then you actually veer off into timeline B. So that's how the whole causality problem can be avoided. But that's not the case here within steinsgate, right? Their interpretation of this is that there's still only one set of people existing at any time. When you're doing something like that, you're simply, changing the memories of everyone that happened. So then you might say, okay, but still, even if that is a sort of different interpretation, wouldn't that still be the same? I mean, the end result is the same, right? Yes, again, yes and no. So, as we can see already, the universe essentially calculates itself, right? As we can see through these 24 episodes of Steinsgate, when you do something to change the past, the universe eventually entirely recalculates everything happening, and so everything is changed and everyone's memories are changed as well. Now, however, what this means is that there is a sort of inconsistency here in this very last episode, where if Okabe really did something to change the past, what should have happened is for reading Steiner to instantly activate, and then for everything in the past to be completely changed as well, including the fact that Okabe got a wound in his abdomen area, right? Because that's how it worked for the time leap, that's how it worked for the D-mails, and that should theoretically be how it works for the time machine as well. You're not supposed to actually go back, change time, and then go back to your present again, right? Because, again, if you already changed the past, the time machine doesn't exist. So what probably should have happened is that once the change was confirmed or whatnot, then he would go eventually get back to his time, I guess, through some miraculous reason, and everything would be fine. He would not have the wound in his abdomen because that thing would have never happened, right? So yeah, again, this is kind of a nitpick, I guess you could say, but I do feel like this is, and maybe, I don't know, maybe the anime did things different from the visual novel, but I'm just saying that probably that entire part shouldn't have happened. And speaking of which, why didn't reading Steiner activate anyways? Why didn't we get a final timeline reading, if you will? But anyways, that's the main part that I still have problems with within this episode, and I guess with this series as a whole in terms of the time travel aspects. Then again, having said all that, I know, this is an anime, right? The most brilliant minds in the world aren't able to give a coherent explanation as to what would actually happen with time travel, and I don't expect an anime to be able to fully explain everything as well. At least so far, 24 episodes in, there's only been like maybe this instance and maybe another one of inconsistency or whatnot, where I don't feel like the explanation is really adequate. Again, at the end of the day, this is something for entertainment. We can hand wave a lot of things off and just view it as it is for enjoyment's purpose, right? And so I do get that. This is not meant to be a hard science anime. So, at the end of the day, I feel like that's not that big of a problem. It's just that because I'm doing this kind of series, because of the way I like to review things, I am pointing these things out. It doesn't really lessen my enjoyment of this series in particular, since time travel itself is a pretty absurd concept in the first place, but, I just feel obligated to point it out as well. In terms of the actual series as a whole, well, I'm sure you guys can tell that I quite enjoyed this one, right? I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the interactions, I enjoyed the various twists and whatnot throughout, although like I said, some of them I feel like were a little bit too foreshadowed. I wasn't actually spoiled by any of you guys or by anything I've read before, and that's, I guess that's a clap for you guys as well. You guys did a good job of not actually spoiling me on anything. But just by the way that the anime was going, I kind of, expected some of these things to happen. But still, enjoyable nonetheless. Really, the only big, I wouldn't even say big, but the only gripes I had with this series would still be, going back to Moeka and Braun, which I already talked about at length a few episodes past. So that's really the only part which I feel is sort of, I still feel like kind of out of place out of everything. And speaking of which, since we're on the topic of Moeka and Braum, I know at the very end they had this this great fuzzy heartwarming reunion scene where Moeka is now with Braun, and then he's still Okabe's landlord, and so the whole gang is together at that place, right? So everything's fine and dandy, right? But theoretically, they should still be sleeper agents of CERN, right? I mean, it's not like CERN doesn't exist in this timeline, and in fact, CERN probably would in this timeline. CERN probably still has been doing its experiments in the past. It's still a shady organization, at least in terms of this universe, trying to figure out the secrets of time travel, and they still have this network of agents that are there to do their bidding whenever and whatever, right? So really, even though Braun and Moika are here and they're smiling and they seem good and all that, their situation hasn't really changed, has it? Right? So is that really a happy ending in a sense? I don't know. Again, which is why I guess that's just another thing piling up as to why I feel like this Moika Braum situation doesn't like it. I really do sincerely feel that this anime would have been better off, or this work would have been better off, if they tried to structure their stories a little bit more differently. Again, this is just personal opinion. Everybody's allowed to have their opinion. That's how I feel about this. But other than that, no complaints there. And as I said before, I absolutely love the actual relation between Karisu and Okabe. I wouldn't go as far as to say they're the best couple I've seen ever in anime works, but they are definitely one of my favorites right now. And the way that they interact and whatnot, and their personalities and characteristics as well. So, all in all, I do enjoy this series. I mean, I went into this pretty much expecting that I would enjoy this series, right? It's really one of the top, it's one of the top rated, consistently one of the top rated anime of pretty much everywhere, and in Reddit in particular, and my anime list. But yeah, that about covers it. So I will be doing the future episodes. I mean, not episodes. Doing the future sequels as well. So I'm assuming that next I'm supposed to watch episode 25, the OVA, and then the movie, and then episode 23 beta, and then finally Steinsgate 0. So that will be coming. Don't worry about that. I'm also thinking, because this season I'm doing two series that are older or already finished series. I probably still will be pushing out 2 episodes per week for these future sequels of Steinsgate, but I'm thinking of staggering them so they're not all on the same day. So I might, sort of stagger them throughout the week and whatnot. But at least I'll try to get out 2 episodes per week, just as a heads up to you guys. So, that's it for Steinsgate, the original. Let me know if there's anything in regards to what I just said that you feel you want to object to, or you want to make a correction upon, or if there's anything, supplement info that you want to give right now. Feel free, since I can't be spoiled anymore. But if it's something that relates with Steinsgate 0 and all the future works and whatnot, again, just keep a lid on it. We'll get there. We'll get there. Alright? So, hopefully I will see you guys for the sequel. Until then, see you guys. Bye-bye.